Happy first day of July, everyone. I don't know about you, but I can't believe it's July already. July is my birthday month, so it marks the fact that the summer is almost over, but it's also birthday month, so it's the best month for me. Um, but I hope you all have been having a great summer so far and some really great plans for this weekend coming up to share some time with family and friends and to relax and things like that. But before we get into the weekend, I want to say welcome to our coffee break for the month of July, where we will be learning about living out your values with Callista Smith. And before I introduce Callista and have her go ahead and take over, I always like to take a moment to introduce our team here at Webeck ORV, just in case you're out and about in the community. That way you can put a face with a name. And so our president and CEO is Dr. Frederica Singletary. Our fractional CFO is Jackie Jordan. Our fractional CHRO is LaCosta Moore. And our Senior Director of Marketing, Communications, and Engagement is Courtney Martin. I did introduce myself in the beginning. If you don't already know who I am, my name is Dr. Kitiana Lowe. I go by Dr. K, and I'm the Director of Programs and Events here at Webeck ORV. And then on our certification team, you all should be very familiar with them, led by our Director of Certification and Outreach, Colleen Rudisell, our Certification Manager, Robbie Moore, and then down here at the end is our Certification Specialist, Anita Steele. On the corporate side, you may not be as familiar, but our corporate engagement manager is Devin Davis. Devin Davis, goodness gracious, today my tongue is tied. Devin Davis, our corporate engagement manager, and then our administrative assistant who keeps us all moving in the right direction is Morgan McDonald. And so we are a mighty team who work diligently to do all things that you all need in terms of certification, business development, professional development, and all of those types of things. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our 2026 Champion Circle. These are corporates and WBEs who have lockstep with Webeck ORV for this season. And because of their generous contributions, we are able to provide workshops such as this one and several others that we do free of charge. So definitely want to thank them for all that they do and their support. And without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce your facilitator for today, Callista Smith. She is the president and founder of Scale Strategic Solutions. Callista, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good morning. Glad to have all of you here. Again, I am Callista Smith, and we have a nice little group, some familiar faces. I'm glad to have join us, and we're going to talk about living out your values and thinking about how we have our personal and corporate or organizational values and how we operationalize them. So have a small enough group. So even though this says in the chat, I think we can take a moment for just a brief round the horn introduction. Say your name, your company, and what you like in your coffee. So I'll just say what I like in my coffee, which is peppermint syrup. So we'll pass it along, and I'll just call on people at random. But Kathy Lindeman, my friend, what do you like in your coffee? And tell us your organization.
Kathy Lindeman with Evolution Creative Solutions, and I don't like coffee. I drink tea.
What do you like in your tea?
Honey.
Honey. Okay. Yes. And if you don't like coffee, even though it's a coffee break, it could be a water break, a tea break, a Diet Coke break. I know some people who like that. So please share what you like. Kate, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Kate McCracken. I'm with Emmy Clark Consulting. We're an organizational health and leadership development practice. And I love more milk in my coffee than coffee. I'm a latte girl, but I'm going to go with oat or almond usually. And if I'm feeling spicy, some mocha in there too.
I love that. Ryan, you're no longer in the car?
For the next few minutes, I'll be here. So, Ryan Cozy, I'm with the Boz Group, and I love black dark roast coffee.
Great.
Yeah.
And Kitten.
So I'm also with the Boz Group, so that's perfect. And I have two extremes. I either go just hot black coffee or some extravagant mocha concoction that's really, really bad for me.
All right. Love it, love it, love it. Michelle Morrison, feel free to introduce yourself if you're in a great place. If not, no worries. There you are.
Sorry about that. Um, my name is Michelle Morrison. My company is Creative Inventive Solutions. I love pretty much anything in my coffee. As long as I have coffee in the morning, I'm good.
Love it. And what about Michelle Uber?
We'll see if this works. I'm Michelle Uber, Quick Stitch Plus, and I just like my coffee black, but lots of it.
Okay. And I have a nice surprise, and then a great colleague, Autumn, who's joined us, so she can help keep us honest in this conversation. So, Autumn, tell them about yourself and what you like in your coffee or beverage.
Hi, everybody. Autumn Smith. I am with Scale, like Calista said. I am Calista's project manager. I like iced coffee in particular, but I just like cream, just cream with my coffee and just 1 cup a day.
And Dr. K, what's your favorite?
I do not like coffee or tea, actually. My hot beverage of choice would be hot chocolate. And I am a plain and simple girl, so I want Swiss Miss. Jeez, what is wrong with me today, guys? Swiss Miss with marshmallows. I don't like the extra highfalutin stuff. Just give me the good old generic, which is probably just full of sugar, which is probably why I like it.
Okay. Great, great. Well, glad to have all of you again. I'm going to just set the tone that this is a relaxed conversation as we go through this work. I'll just tell you a little bit more about our team at Scale Strategic Solutions. So we say we transform information into action with expertise and love. And love is one of our values. And so we'll get some fun time talking about how that works in a small business setting. And we do continuous improvement essentially in public sector and nonprofit work. We do everything from program evaluation and research, training, learning and development. We often coach and do some capacity building and strategic planning. Actually, here in Chicago is where I am this morning, working with a school district who is trying to make sure they have success for all students. So doing a lot with data there, and engagement and facilitation is something that runs through our work, and oftentimes we're called on to engage the community. And so you can see here the variety of sectors we work with, as well as clients. So everything from education to health to community service. So you may say, okay, well, that's great. That's great to make sure your values come alive because you're doing mission-driven work a lot of times, but we'll have some conversation about what that looks like if you're not necessarily explicitly in a service-oriented business that's community focused. So values, just to make sure we're all on the same term, values, and when I use values here, I just say it's the belief and principles that shape your preferences, thoughts, behaviors, and actions. It serves as the anchor for how you go about your life, how you go about in your world and in your work. And you have both personal values. Sometimes you can name them as well as company values. So as we continue the conversation, just giving us a moment to reflect, what are your personal values? So if you haven't ever taken a moment to think about what your personal values are, what you value the most, feel free to take a look at this list and just take a moment to write down 1 or 2 of your personal values, whether it's on this list or not. And if anybody's still in motion, and not necessarily seeing their screen, things like accountability, venture, achievement, faith, generosity, growth, learning, peace, pleasure, leisure, inclusion, all of those type of things. So as you thought about that, drop one of your personal values in the chat. And then we'll have a little group discussion about examples of how you live out your personal values. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about personal values, and then we'll talk about corporate values. And sometimes they align and sometimes they're a little different. So drop one of your personal values in the chat. Okay. Empathy, integrity, compassionate truth, inclusion, creativity, yes, faith, generosity, family accountability. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So hopefully that's got you thinking. And as I say, July is halftime for many of us. And as you think about some of your personal ways you have these values shape your thoughts or behavior, and it may be things that you do in your personal time or your professional time, but they are your individual values. What are some examples of how you're living out your value, how that value might shape your behavior? And I'll start with an example. So one of my values I share with Ryan is generosity. So as I think about being generous, one of my commitments is to make time to volunteer, even though things can get busy, trying to think about where I want to volunteer, setting some giving goals personally. When someone asks me for help, giving generously, even though I know there might not necessarily be a personal return on it. So those are some of the ways that I live out my value of generosity. Anybody else want to share how they live out their value?
I could share real quick. Is that
Yes.
okay? Yeah, so family is a big one for me, and generosity. I would say those are probably the two that, well, faith too, but yeah, they're all big. But family, just as two examples, family is how I live that out is basically I make my working career out of what is best for my family. So it involved me moving out of upstate New York and back to Ohio to help my wife and her father or her dad, my father-in-law, who was sick. And it was, it was tough because I had a really good career, but it was like, no, family's the most important. That's one of our core values. And so I'm going to give up a career to go back and try to rediscover what telecom consulting is, which is really challenging. Um, and then I would say faith is, faith's really important to our family. And so we want for our four children, you can't really force a faith on someone, but you can expose them to it. You can give them repeated opportunities to like hear and see, hey, this is what your mom and I, this is what we think or we believe. Get some exposure to it, and then when you're 18, you can do whatever you want. But we want to give you that exposure to our faith system, and so that sounds like it's all really easy and simple. It's not. Like I have teenagers who absolutely hate some of the things that we say. Hey, let's go listen to this. Let's go hear this. But anyway, it seems like the good outweighs the bad there, and I'm really thankful for it. But we definitely try to orient around those two things as a family.
Well, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely have a life in parallel.
Yeah.
We've been doing caregiving, and I have a teenager who's on her own spiritual journey, so to speak.
Yeah.
So can definitely relate to that. I'm sure others can relate to parts of that story too. Anyone else want to share examples of how their values shape thoughts or behaviors?
I'll share if no one else is going.
Sure.
That kind of parallel situation. I'm a product developer, so typically I license my products to companies. And about a year and a half ago, I decided I was going to take one back and manufacture in-house and get a better handle on things so I could guide it better. And as soon as I did, and I worked through the tariff situation and got the order, my dad, who my mom and brother have both since passed, and I'm married with kids, but my dad became ill, and I put that all on hold. It was my faith had got me through a lot of that, but I put everything on hold. I had to make a decision that this launch was going to have to hold off, and he passed in November. But when I look back, I would never change anything that I did. The faith, family, and just doing what's right. So I I understand where both of you are. It's a tough place to be, but when you look back, you have no regrets.
That's so true. And one of the things that as we have this conversation, wanted to point out, and others could echo this even in other stages of your life. Sometimes it feels like a tension between living out your personal values and how to execute your professional goals. But there's ways to do that, and there's ways to make sure you hold fast to those personal values, and pursue both those and your organizational values. Now, sometimes it's not in the timing you might expect, as Michelle has shared, and that's been an experience of ours. Also, is that sometimes you have a goal you want to hit by this quarter, but life happens and you're a small business and you're trying to balance, and trying to hold fast to the core of what you value, and think about the way you act on that is very broad. So, thinking about how you value family, and caregiving, we've talked about elder care a little bit, but some people might be in earlier stages of their life where they're also caring for young children, or they're thinking about how to support as a grandparent. And so some of the things that we have considered, both in terms of our organizational policy, and then when we're trying to help other organizations implement things, is knowing that you can have that value, but what it might look like may be different. So I might value caregiving for my daughter, but does that mean I'm a stay-at-home mom? No. Does it mean I go to every soccer game? Maybe. Maybe I go to every other soccer game. Maybe I send her a special note in her bag when she goes to soccer. So the way people live that out can be wide and varied. And so thank you all for kind of sharing a couple of experiences in that respect. And so as we talk about our personal values, moving into the conversation about our organizational values. And some of you are founders or leaders, and some of you may be senior leadership, but you're really co-developing and leading on the values front. But by a show of hands, how many of you have organizational values written down? Okay. Several people, yep. And what are they? You're welcome to either put them in the chat or come off mute. What are some of your organizational values? And I'll show our scale organizational values in a moment. Ryan, you want to share?
Yeah, we want to co-create for best value. We want to embrace accountability. We want to honor the details. We want to always improve, and we want to be a positive force. And so those five, we kind of they are our calling card, and we've created a culture at Boz where we honor those every week in our company pulse meeting. And so if somebody's doing something that you say, hey, I saw so and so improving this last week, or I saw them embrace accountability and on some client work. We call it out, and then they get a Boz buck. And at the end of the month, depending on the number of nominations you get, we have a prize wheel, and we just kind of honor it. So it sounds cheeky or cheesy a little bit, but it's the stickiest core values I've ever been associated with. So I'm really thankful for it.
Does not sound cheesy to me. I love that. Yes. And Kitten was given a clap, your colleague. Kitten, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that experience of.
I mostly echoing what Ryan said. Like it can feel a little cheesy, but people respond to it, and we're fully remote, so it's nice to have them like really clearly defined and reinforced weekly. Yeah, pretty great.
I love that. I love it. I love it. And I see Kate put her company values in intuition, integrity, and inclusion. Kate, anything you want to say about how frequently you refer to your values in everyday routines or even annual kind of pieces, or do you feel like that's something to grow?
Yeah, we have bi-monthly retreats where we always touch back into them. And I think one of the things I notice every time is they're so deeply ingrained that each time we're just like, yep. we're still doing it. Like it shows up in the way we make decisions and the way we talk about our work, even using these words just comes up in the day-to-day, which feels really good.
Great. I love it. I love it. I love all these ways people are working on their values and living them out. Michelle Uber, creativity, integrity, accuracy, and a side order of curiosity and growth. Tell us a little bit about the main dish and the side orders.
Well, we founded our business because we weren't getting the integrity and accuracy. We had another business, we had the creativity, but we were outsourcing. So the integrity of the companies we were working with, the accuracy of the companies we work with were really our pain points. So we bought our own equipment and now because of the challenges that we faced, we built them into our process. And then the side order of curiosity and growth is because this is an ever-changing landscape. There's so much to learn. There's so much to grow personally and within the business that everybody that we hire needs to have that. They can't come in just saying, I know everything. I'm going to do this great thing for you. They have to be willing to expand their knowledge or their own personal growth in some way. And that looks different for everybody. We don't have one type of a track for people. We meet them where they are. We look for what their, what is their growth? Is it a personal thing? Do they want to become better networkers? Do they want to have more knowledge in a type of decoration, embroidery, screen wedding, in the trades? And then we try to find ways to meet them so that they get what they need as well as we get what we need out of that. And so asking questions, the curiosity, asking questions, because what's on your mind is probably on my mind too. And by getting it out there and being curious, we have opportunities to solve things much faster.
I love it. I love it. I love all these great examples of values and what people are doing. Does anyone have a sense like, okay, this is an area where we struggle. Either we don't have articulated values or we have the values, but they kind of sit there, any kind of things. We're having coffee and tea and water that you want to chat about in terms of that challenge.
I mean, I say we definitely don't have written values. And I'm away too all over the board to have values, so they would change every week with my mood. But I would say most consistently, we just say we'll get it done. We own the building. We can be here 24/7, but we definitely don't write it down. I'd change it too often. I'd have to redo my wall every week.
You can have, just like it's in your name, evolution is one of your values. And adaptation is one of your values, Kathy. I've seen that in action.
I always say I did creative solutions because that's what we believe in, is we believe in coming up with something creative and being a solution finder.
Great. Yeah. So, there are some things that, Kathy and others might find that uh, if you ask your team what your values are, like particularly your long-term team members, it would be interesting to see if some themes come up. And then you realize, like, oh, we do have values that have been pretty consistent, even though they're not written down. So yeah, thanks, Kathy, for sharing that. I think you can see things all over the spectrum in terms of, what we find in our work. So one of the things I wanted to, and kind of started this conversation, so we just kind of had that, but I wanted to share with you our values and how we think about our work. So these are our scale values: resourcefulness, making sure that we connect our clients as well as our staff to resources. And when we have problems, and if we think about the work we do, I mean, that's the one thing about being in education, public health, or social service. I heard somebody say, like, okay, manufacturing, quality improvement, you can do, Six Sigma with a machine and get that accuracy. And they said people are Two Sigma. So when you think about the things that people need to do in the very human, unautomated experience, there's a wide variation. But as we think about the role of AI and the role of the human experience, being resourceful about how to support that human experience, knowing that there's a lot more variation than, programming a machine, for instance. And also thinking strategic, knowing that the choices we make today and the choices we support our clients in making are going to have a long-term effect, or can have a long-term effect. So making sure we're not making trade-offs for the future in education, health, or social services when we're making decisions for today. And being practical. It's easy to be too idealistic in the spaces we're in, so we focus on practicality. I think someone mentioned in their corporate values paying attention to the details. So that's meticulousness for us. I will say this is the value I struggle the most for, and is the most aspirational in our work. And then filial love, brotherly love. We want people to love doing work with us. And we want people to love being at scale. And when I first added this as a core value to our organization, there was some hesitancy because you don't want to be seen as a fluffy, non-serious small business. I still want to be recognized as a consultant that's data driven, and you can be matter of fact. But that value has really played out well, and it's also been helpful in kind of screening out, so to speak, uh, potential hires or collaborations that if people feel uncomfortable once we've explained it, then we know it's not quite a fit for where we want to go and the type of relationship we want. So, and then it's also been a great attractor. So people see that and they say, okay, this is the type of organization I want to do business with. So that's how, one of the reasons the core values have been really valuable for us. Autumn, you don't have to, but you're welcome to chime in if there's anything you think I should add about core values.
No, I don't think so. But I will, okay, I will say that I do think that these really sum up scale. I've been here for 3 years and I've seen each of these work out internally and externally with clients. So yeah, I think it's all very, very true to how we operate as a team.
Great. And Ryan, I think I saw you come off mute. Anything you want to share?
No, I love the phileo love. Like I was in seminary. I used to be a pastor at one point, and so like brotherly love, agape, stargay. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Like brotherly love is I love that. I think that's a really cool. It's very unique. It probably drives a cultural fit pretty quickly. Like, is this a fit or not? But I think it's cool that you have that on there. So kudos to you.
Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, we should hang out.
Yes, we should. That's
and
what I was
talk
thinking.
about
Yes.
our parents and our kids and
Yes,
brotherly
that'd be
love
wonderful.
and business.
Yeah, you know it. I would love that. That'd be great.
I would love hanging out with all of you.
All right.
That's why we do these coffee breaks, right?
For sure. For sure. Awesome. Same.
Okay. So one of the things that as I was thinking about this, and when I started these values, the C.H. Smith and Associates didn't have associates, but there was a dream of associates. So as I thought about, okay, what do I do once I start adding people in? And I started looking at some of the work of Brene Brown. You may be familiar with her work. And I believe this quote is from Dare to Lead. I may be mistaken. But from one of her books. And, she just says, people roll their eyes when we talk about values. And it's like, okay, what do you really mean? It's just fluff. People aren't serious. It's not just individuals who fall short. We talked about our individual values, but also in corporate areas. And so she was saying that only 10% of organizations have operationalized, that's the word she uses, their values into teachable and observable behaviors that are used to train employees and hold them accountable. So people shared great ways they've been doing this in your own companies, whether it's the bi-monthly meeting or the round table where people give kind of kudos about how people operationalize their values. And so we took her work and thought about how to do that in our organization. So what we did, and you can see here a list, and actually I think that link is to some of her tools if you want to do this in your organization, if you feel like you want to take how you operationalize your values a little further. We held a retreat, and I think this was before Autumn joined, and the retreat was in 2021. So started the company in 2011, had my first full-time employee in 2017. So by 2021, I was realizing, oh, I need to get a little more specific about what I need to do with these core values. So we had a retreat and we talked about the list of behaviors we wanted to see as we thought about that work. And then we then refined our description of those action behaviors after the retreat. And then I started embedding them in some of our internal communications. One thing we do is a biweekly newsletter, which confession in Autumn, I don't know if you know this. I started doing the biweekly newsletter to make sure people knew that I ran payroll and so we knew I didn't forget. So in the newsletter, it would say, yes, payroll has been processed because I did forget to run payroll one time. And it was a reminder for that. And then when we went remote during COVID, we really picked it up and started having more content in our newsletter to keep people connected and updated on projects. And it has also some fun and wellness pieces as a part of that too. We also, this is something that we want to get even better about, is using it to give constructive feedback. So I try to be mindful, especially when I need to give someone some challenging feedback, talk about how their action or behavior did not reflect the values that we had in specific ways. So, hey, the tone of your email to that person did not reflect the value of love or did not reflect resourcefulness because you told them to beat it. And so, thinking about how to give feedback to people, as well as praise. And, people share some great examples of how praise and kudos were given to their colleagues. But that's one way where I've had to give a little poke, so to speak, and ways to use values. I also started in the last couple of years to describe performance in an annual evaluations around the values to reinforce how people have been living that out or where they could grow and give them some specific behavior and actions they can take to make their work go to the next level. And then I also use it in strategic decisions. Also being in the work we're in, quite a few of our clients, even though we don't do direct federal government work, we had several clients who had federal funding streams that changed or other dynamics in terms of needs in their community change over the last couple of years that shifted the nature of our focus, shifted what we should do. And I thought about, okay, what values do I want to live out? For instance, we were doing quite a bit of work around health equity, which was not controversial in the field, even among a wide variety of areas in Ohio, particularly. We also did work in Vermont, but we were trying to figure out how to be resourceful in helping communities still reach populations that needed health services while making sure they don't run afoul of any requirements that a federal funding resource may put on them. So just trying to navigate that with love, practicality, strategic thinking, like all those values we had to come into place and think about, okay, how are we going to approach this work, not just for the good of our client and the good of community, which is first and foremost, but how we also survive with integrity as a business. So hopefully that's kind of interesting to you, and that Brene Brown resource, if you want to go through the exercise, she has some great materials to kind of do it yourself. If you find like, hey, how do I describe what this looks like in reality? So here's just an example of what we did around the value of love. And I think one of them, I think Michelle Uber kind of talked about this in the chat. It was funny to see that. So I think number 5 is somewhat aligned to one of the things Michelle said. So I extend the most generous interpretations possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. So we said, okay, that's a sign of love. I avoid assuming intentions. I ask colleagues when I need clarification. I practice patience with colleagues. So that was how we of how people thought about it. So the column on the right, on the far piece, were what people put on sticky notes during the retreat. And then the behavior in the first column is how we kind of summed it up more elegantly in our work. So you can see that here. One of the first one I seek to understand others' experience, needs, and perspectives. People talked about having empathy, patient with client needs. So patient with client needs, that was all in effect for 2025 and 2026 in a new and different way. I take feedback with grace. We avoid arrogance is what someone put on the sticky note. I think, and this is another funny story that I tell, which is also part of a kind of like culture sharing of our values, is to tell funny stories. So I think Autumn's heard this one. And excuse the language, but I want to be honest to what was said. So we do a lot of evaluation projects, and when you're an evaluator telling a program if they did well or not, sometimes it's easy to say, well, now I know, what your program does, and you come in on a high horse with all your research and your technical expertise and say, here's the answer. And we try to avoid that sense of arrogance or that approach to the work. And so we had a client in a state organization who said, and she was well seasoned in her role. And she said, you know what? I like working with you as an evaluator. The rest of the evaluators are bitches. So I'm like, okay, we're not bitches. That's a differentiator. Guess that's a differentiator. I'm going to go with that. So I love telling that story because it shows our values in that way. But the big question, which we started to toy with, is can everyone's personal values align to the organization's values? Those of us who are founders or senior leaders, it's easier to make that choice because, hey, I drafted the values. So like they probably aren't too far from what I personally value. But as I think about Autumn and other people on the team, they come into the organization with their set of values. So what does that do in terms of alignment? So here's just a little way to think about it. And this is the first time I've kind of talked about this in a group. So I'm glad to kind of test and see what you guys think about this. So if you think about either your personal values or the team that you lead, and you think about everybody on that team, how might their personal values align to organizational values? So sometimes it's similar and direct. So I value love. Love is a corporate value. Great. There's direct alignment. But sometimes it might be overlapping. So they're different, but the behaviors may be the same. So, some people are faith-based and grew up with a faith practice. Some people may not have a faith practice, but they value generosity, even though they don't have a religious belief. But because of faith and because of generosity, there might be some overlapping behaviors like being kind to people or helping people in need. So those behaviors are overlapping, although the source and what that person might attribute as their core value may be articulated differently. So the next one on the bottom left corner is different yet harmonious. So for instance, you may have someone in their personal life, they value adventure. They want to go out and explore the world. They value adventure. But you're not an adventure company, but you might you have other values, but your values don't conflict with adventure. So if I had someone on our team who valued adventure, being filial love, meticulousness, strategic thinking, all of that can live harmoniously with their value of adventure, even though it is not one of the core values. And then there's ways that the values might be complementary. And so this is, not quite, it's like a little bit different from overlapping, but very much in the same boat. And, when you think about uh, the complementary values, you may find that the value of stability, for instance, is something has. So they're a rule follower. And that's a nice complement to our value of meticulousness. And so they might, again, be slightly different in terms of stability, but because they want stability, they want to manage change very carefully. But because they have that, they might be really good to help us be more meticulous, because some of the behaviors they have in terms of being a rule follower or wanting to make sure things have some order help us be meticulous. So if you can think about that, those are ways that personal and organizational values coexist as people think about living that out. As you see these, any thoughts, reflections about personal and corporate value alignment?
I personally like a whole bunch of different values because it brings a bunch of different views to the table. So even though I need them to all have one core thing to be able to get it done, I don't care what their method is or what their value is to get it done. And I do like
Yes.
these 4 examples since it's the first time you presented. I really do like this.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kathy. And like I said, you can look at this, and I think one of the things that I try to be cautious of with the values is not creating groupthink, but still keeping people focused on the core value. And so this is a nice way to say, okay, people bring other assets to the table. And they may arise out of a particular value that they have, and that there's ways that it can align with our organization. Michelle Uber, I think you were going to say something.
It's along the same lines, but it goes back to that positive intent, because even though you might not see one of your particular values in that person, it might be coming around a different way. And so changing our lens and looking at what they are bringing to the table that does go along with that, using that positive intent, how can we direct it to be a little bit more in line with what we have? And just understanding the person and where they're coming from, I guess.
Absolutely. And, I find that I'm a very imperfect manager. And so there's been times where I've had cases, those of you who have been managers, where, someone is not terrible, but they're not quite a fit. And then, what's the right way to coach them and think about helping them tap into the behavior that you want to see aligned to your values. And of course, all of this should align to performance. Your core values should, help power your organizational performance. And so when there's that misalignment, it's because it should probably see an impact in performance in some way, whether it's bottom line performance or their impact on colleagues. Sometimes we see someone who has great numbers on what they produce on the widgets and digits, but they're causing chaos for everybody else in the organization. And so thinking about that, these are some of the conversations and tools to kind of rein people in and get them to their best selves, so that they can perform and align to the type of environment you want. Oh, Michelle, that's a good one about being a family business. Is anyone else in a family-run business? But yeah, that's a challenge. I'm probably never going to be in a family-run business because my daughter said she never wants to follow in my footsteps when she was 12. So, which was like, okay, great. I'm glad I know that now. But I also, at different times, I had my brother working with me. I've had different relatives that I've brought in for contract work. And so yes, so sometimes there's that humming of you automatically understand them. And if you think about the dynamic on the side, or sometimes you can read people, like you can see it coming for miles. If you can think about how do I generate that type of dynamic with people you don't know, who are coming into your business as new hires, there's really some magic in that. So other comments, questions, challenges. I'm always open to challenges, to the conversation about values and alignment.
I wanted to say I really like how you're putting everything together. For me, it's my own business, so I feel stepping into from the values that I have personally and then business. If we don't bring those values into the business, then we're not going to feel like it's run properly. And at some point, we realize that our brand values are our reputation. So your product can be good or your service can be good, but it's a lot of times it's the customer service, it's the people behind that product or service. So I love how you've brought this all. It works together cohesively, and from the people that I've talked to, they feel the same way. My friends who have businesses, if they don't align everything, it just doesn't feel right. It's separated, and you can't feel good about that business if that's going on. And and don't give up on your daughter, because I have at least two friends that came to mind right away. That one is in healthcare, and I don't want to do what you do, Mom. And guess what she's doing now? She's doing
Right.
Mom did.
Yes.
Yeah. So at least a couple of instances. So thank you for this.
No problem. Thank you for sharing that. I love what you said about, your values often are your reputation. I think that's so true. And you're right. The arc is long for parenting. So I'm sure that story will evolve.
Amen. Preach.
So thank you so much for participating in this and having coffee and tea with me. I'll turn it back over to Dr. K.
This has been so, so, so good. Callista, thank you so very much. And even to all of you as attendees, I love your engagement, your transparency. A lot of this conversation that was taking place, especially in the beginning, where we talk about what are our values and what do we like and what's working and what's not. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if I really want to share because I don't want everybody to know that I don't know what's going on or whatever the case may be. So I appreciate you all for just being such an engaging group. I won't even say audience, but such an engaging group today. You hit on so many different things. I'm a parent. I'm a caregiver of my mother, and so I'm what they call that like Oreo cookie. I'm squeezed in the middle of so many different things. It's not even an Oreo because it's a double stuff. That's what it is, a double stuffed Oreo, because there's so much in the middle between the cookie ends. But I think one of the great things is that conversations like this help us to remember that we are not alone in this journey. We can connect with other people, whether you actually have real coffee or tea with each other or lunch or whatever the case may be. That's really what this all is about. is, helping to forge those connections and relationships between our WBEs and even the team members, right? So you don't have to be the business owner. We've got folks on this call who are not the business owner, but we still want to pour into all of you, just like we pour into the business owners. So before we wrap up, a couple things I want to do. So I'm going to share my screen again. The first thing that I want to do is, we always have our survey slide. So if you are in the position to do so, if you can scan this QR code and fill out this brief survey about our session today. If you are not in the position to do so right now, that's completely fine. When you receive your recap email, it will have a link to this survey in that email. So whether you fill it out now or whether you fill it out later, it doesn't matter to me. I just ask that you fill it out. And that helps us to be able to create even better opportunities, especially as we get ready to wrap up this year. And I can't believe I even said that because we're in the middle of the year. But as far as my planning is concerned, as we begin to wrap up this year and look at our planning for 2027, you filling out those surveys really helps us to determine what we're going to do in terms of programming and things like that. And while you're doing that, I want to, of course, talk about some of our upcoming programs that we have. For those of you, I believe most of you all are parts of a certified business. We do have Doing Business with Messer Construction coming up on July 8th. That's my birthday. I won't be here, but Morgan is going to fill in, I believe, that's Devin. Devin will be facilitating that webinar. But so we do have that opportunity to learn more about Messer Construction, what they do, why they do it, and why they're so willing to work with businesses like yourselves. And that's one of the really great things about those Doing Business sessions. Thank you. And then we also have on July 15th. So July 15th and July 23rd are two webinars that we're doing, kind of like a precursor to Catch the Wave. I saw Michelle dropped about Catch the Wave in the chat. Yes. So we have two opportunities to meet before Catch the Wave to really help you prep for Catch the Wave this year. So July 15th, Verbalizing Your Value. If you were at Catch the Wave last year, you remember our keynote and MC, Quinn Conyers. If you weren't there, you totally missed out, but you can redeem yourself this year by coming this year. But she does a really great job of not really talking about the values that Callista was talking about today, but one of her big things is that every time you open up your mouth to talk about your business, you are pitching your business. And the very first question that people are going to ask while you're at Catch the Wave or any other event is, who are you? What's your name and what do you do? Right? And I can say my name is Kitiana and I'm the Director of Programs and Events. And yes, that tells you what I do, but Quinn really helps you to elevate that. So instead of just talking about what your title is, you truly verbalize who you are and what you do. And really it's like an elevator pitch on steroids. So that's a really great session, free of charge. So you want to share that. Even if you're not able to attend Catch the Wave this year, I won't hold it against you, but that's still a really great opportunity to learn how to level up how you talk about yourself and how you talk about your business. And then on July 23rd, using AI to win corporate contracts. This is led by one of our corporate members, Daryl Johnson. He's got this really great AI tool that he has developed that he's actually offering to our Weebies free of charge to use until October. As long as you attend this event. If you attend this event, you'll receive that code. But this AI tool that he has developed allows you to put in information about you and your business. And then as well, also put information in about maybe some corporates that you're interested in meeting at Catch the Wave. It's really going to help you to hone in on what value add can you give to this corporate, or maybe if now is not a really great time for you to meet with this corporate. So it's going to really be able to help you to focus the time that you spend. There's no reason to talk to corporate A if you don't offer any of the solutions that corporate A needs right now, right? So this tool will give the ability to pull out some of the needs of those corporates and things like that. So this session on July 23rd, once again, is a really great prep for Catch the Wave. You can scan this QR code or go to our events page on our website, and it will direct you to all of these, all of the links for registration. You can register for anything that we have there. And then really quickly, we talked about Catch the Wave. It's August 24th and 25th in Louisville, Kentucky. Registration is open for that. And then coming up as a save the date, October 13th is going to be our construction summit. I always like to say you don't have to be in the construction space to attend. You never know what business that you offer, what service that you offer, someone that's in that room or in the construction space may need. If you are a marketing guru, guess what? They need marketing. So don't think just because construction is not your skill set that means you should not attend. So definitely save this date, October 13th. This event is going to be in Cincinnati, and more information will be coming from there. And that is all that I have. It is 11 o'clock on the dot. This hour has gone so super fast for me today. But thank you so much for joining this morning with your coffee, your tea, your water, your whatever you happen to have. So many of you all really like straight black coffee. It was very interesting to me. But thank you so much for joining today. And I look forward to seeing you at an event coming up soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.